Hey guys, what's up? It's Solo, and today we are going to be starting a brand new series. Now, this series is going to be talking about the what ifs for Destiny, and it's going to be a lot of if this were to happen, what things would follow it, and then what things would change. So, for example, for this video, we're going to be talking about what if Destiny were to get rid of the class system. And yeah, we're just going to keep going on that track. I believe the next one in the series is going to be what if Destiny became Destiny 3, which again also goes off the fact of some rumors that have come out, and this also follows my last video talking about Titans and the whole class issue, which, by the way, if you're going to come into my comment section talking some, oh, well, it's fine if you have this linear fusion rifle that's already busted and people have made, multiple videos about how busted it is, you don't understand what I was talking about in that video. Anyway, let's get started talking about what if Destiny 2 or Destiny 3 no longer had a class system. So, the most logical way it would take place would be Destiny 3 starting out without a class system, because that would be the logical thing for Destiny and Bungie to do, is to put it in Destiny 3. From an advertising perspective and also a gameplay perspective, it'd make a lot more sense, just due to the fact that Destiny 3 is going to end up like how we think it might, which, mind you, rumors still, but we'll get into a lot more of that in the next video. It would be a lot easier for them to do this classless system in a new game rather than Destiny 2, which already has a bunch of systems conspired around being a certain class and dealing certain supers. And yeah, let's talk about what would at first happen when the announcement came out that there wouldn't be any classes. So, the first things that would come out is probably from any reveal trailer for a new game if they decided to go this route. Probably be something along the lines of, oh, make your Guardian more of your own, because now you no longer have a limitation of what class you are. It's what your play style says about you, what you want your play style to be. Be a Arc Strider, super with some of the punching capabilities of Titans and some of the healing of Warlocks. Something like that would come along as your advertisement. And then one of the big things that would have to happen would be a lot of reworks of different systems from Destiny 2 to 3, making it so then the system can actually fit and change systems, especially with exotics, with how all those interact with the fact that there's no longer a class system. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about the pros and cons. We're going to start off with the cons, because usually people go pros then cons, but I think I want to do a little bit different, so we're going to flip them. And let's start out with the cons for the classless system. Alright, so the first con we're going to talk about is, of course, the big one when it comes to classes, especially when it comes to events in Destiny, which is going to be Guardian Games. If you guys don't know what Guardian Games is, it's a event that happens every year where Titans, Warlocks, and Hunters all go head to head to see who can win. Now, if they were to switch to a classless system, this entire event would have to be reworked in a way that people can still compete against each other, but the issue is we don't have classes to, like, I guess, have teams. So I'm guessing maybe they could rework it in a way that's like, instead of the Guardian Games being class based, it could be faction based instead, bringing back the factions from Destiny 1 and 2 and making them make a reoccurrence after, just disappearing in Destiny 2 altogether. Number two has got to be the exotic system. As you guys know, the exotic system currently relies heavily on classes being based of, well, one of three, whether you be a Warlock, Titan, or a Hunter. But with this new system, they would no longer need to have that, so a lot of exotics and a lot of the system would have to be reworked to identified that there is no longer a prohibitor when it comes to attaching an exotic to a certain class, because classes are no longer labeled by, well, these defining classes, making it easier to put on exotics, but also making it a little bit more difficult to rewrite an entire system that's been in the game for multiple years, and still giving more freedom at the end to the player, but making more work on the end of Bungie when it comes to reworking an entire system. Number 3 has got to be the risk of making one type of build in a classless era meta, leading to more people getting kicked from endgame for not using the meta. You guys have never seen this before. We've had this happen in so many different eras of Destiny, from the Galahorn era in Destiny 1 to now the Golden Gun and the Still Hunt era that we're currently in now. But I will say that there are multiple builds that are meta in the current meta, rather than just the Still Hunt meta. That's just the one that's very popular at the current time. Now, the risk of this stems from these, but the issue with them making a classless era is that people, especially elitists, are gonna sit there and start kicking people for not having a certain combo, because they would think, well, if you don't have this combo, then you're not playing the game right, and then that leads to more frustration and a lot of people getting upset over the fact that, well, they're getting kicked out for not being able to play the way that they want, and instead are getting kicked out because they're not quote-unquote min-maxing their DPS and damage, which we already technically see in the current meta now. It's just it'd be a lot more prevalent if Bungie were to accidentally overtune certain abilities, making them more prevalent than others, and making only certain builds, whether it be one or two, the meta. And yeah, so Bungie would really have to be careful in this new meta to make it so then it's not, oh, well, this is the best build out of all of them type stuff. And there'd be a lot more balancing patches, I feel like, if they were to go to this classless era. So, number 4 is going to be that when they started out, there may be some class supers and abilities missing at the start of it. The reason why I say this is because a lot of the classes, abilities, supers, and fragments are going to have to get reworked to make them fit more as a congealed space, rather than just, oh hey, we made it so then you can use anything. Because then if they were to do that now, you could probably sit there and just completely make it trivial to even play the game. So they'd probably have to rebalance a lot of things, making it a little bit weird to, start out in this new game, because some of the abilities that you're used to having would no longer exist for the time being, or maybe never exist again. I mean, we did have, self-res get taken out. We also got Arc Strider Hunters, or not Arc Strider, the Void version of that. I can't remember what it's called because it's been so long. But that one also not coming back. Just, we will have an issue with probably some abilities just never returning due to balance issues. And I know that's a very big disappointing thing for players, so it would be a likely thing to happen if they were to go to a new system like this. Now, the big one, number 5, it's not really I guess, in any particular order, but having to relearn entirely what you want to do as a character, rather than relying on kind of the power fantasy of a class. It's probably going to get some people upset, because that means they have to make more and more decisions in what they want to do in the game, rather than having specific archetypes that you lean into. Again, Titan's a little bit iffy right now, just because of how things are. But with this new classless era, it would be more of, okay, what do you personally want to do? How do you feel like playing the game? And it'd be more akin to kind of like Wayfinder or games that are along the same way as that, where you have a lot of freedom, but you have to choose exactly how you want to play the game rather than just having archetypes to fit and slot yourself into. So yeah, keep that in mind if they were to do this. Now, this was only 5 cons that I picked out. There are probably many, many more. I'm just doing 5 for each one just to give an even amount for each side. But there are definitely more for both sides on pros and cons. But yeah, let's move over to our pros list. Tell you about some of the pros that come along with the classless era if it were to happen. Now, of course, the very first pro I'm going to mention is more openness and flexibility than Prismatic. So Prismatic, I had a lot of issue with because, like, the openness, I like how open it is, but the fact is we are still very much restricted on what we're allowed to do, and we would definitely see more openness from a classless system, giving us the ability to be like, oh, hey, I can mix and match this and this, and show us basically like that the classes were kind of holding us back in a way of not being able to, you know, make some nutty combos out of different abilities and just, you know, having overall a good time with what we were given instead of, you know, being restricted to just, oh, hey, you're a hunter, you get, you know, you get the throwing knife, or you're a titan, you get to punch things type stuff like that. And yeah, just overall more open-minded thoughts for different combinations. Alright, so the second pro is kind of a play on the first one, and is having more of an identity for yourself rather than what Bungie picks, because as everybody knows, Bungie has archetypes that are based off of the 3. You have hunters who are kind of your more agile stealth damage builds. You have your titans, which again kind of up in the air a little bit of what they're supposed to be, and Bungie have been talking about it, but from what I can tell, they're supposed to be your like up close tank melee builds, and then of course your warlocks are your kind of like support slash range, more ranged type builds. And with this, it would kind of get rid of that stigma of, well, since you're playing this class, you're only allowed to play it one way, and give you more of a, well, your guardian is who you want them to be. And a lot of people who make stories or like make up things about their guardian to give them more identifiers would very much like this, just because it makes their guardian more unique to them, and would definitely inspire more people to basically start leaning more into making their guardian kind of like a character in a story rather than just some random guardian who is tied down to being one of 3 classes, and you know, you have to like fill in the blanks for stuff they've done and things like that. It'd be really cool to see. And yeah, let's move on to number 3, shall we? So playing off the exotic class or class item rework, there would no longer be a quote-unquote required class to equip an exotic. For example, a warlock could put on a Heart of Inmost Light and be able to benefit from putting down rifts and being able to just do warlock things if you want to primarily be like kind of warlock-ish in your class. But then also someone who's more of a like titan can also have like the orbs from a warlock basically with them all the time, and making them more aggressive and being able to push harder because they have support on them, rather than having to rely on, you know, basically being, I guess, self-sufficient in a sense of having to melee everything inside to keep themselves alive. They could just have, you know, an actual like healing rift, or just have healing orbs with them, which I think is kind of cool. It makes it easier for you to like pick and choose different parts of your build. It also kind of pulls out the like whole issue with the exotic class items being very narrow in what combinations are allowed, and making it more open, making more exciting builds very possible in that future of not having a class system. Alright, so number 4 is adding abilities and supers would be a lot easier, as they would be able to come out with probably a little bit less, but also a lot more focused abilities and supers. Like, for example, if they were to add, I don't know, like a nightmare class, right? They would be able to add like a base super, or like maybe, who knows, maybe they add 3 supers and they're like, okay, you can pick one, and then there's a bunch of abilities and fragments thrown in there. More of a like bigger prismatic than we have currently, and giving basically the players more freedom of, okay, you know, you can play it one of a few ways, and then we will sit there and give you the tools to be able to craft whatever you see fit, you know. And I think that's a really cool concept, seeming's the just history with all of it. And yeah, let's move into number 5. So one of the big things I'm always going to talk about is I don't think any class should ever be higher than the other. I think they should all be on the same level playing field. Mind you, this is nearly impossible to complete as a game developer, but also if you were to take this away, like take classes away, you'd basically solve the class issue while also playing off of the con that I listed earlier, kind of make it more of a, oh, well, you have to have these things to raid, blah, 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 blah. But again, it would kind of throw it back in the face of the people who are like, well, unless you're playing Hunter or this, or, you know, the people who think it's very cool to sit there and say that if you're not playing a certain class, you're not playing the game right. Um, and this goes for all classes, because all classes has at least one. But yeah, the elitism that comes with having 3 different classes and people thinking 3 different classes are OP at certain points, or like that Bungie favors one over the other, is kind of one of those things. Like, they could definitely eliminate that without, you know, with having no classes in the 3rd game, and it'd be a lot of relief, but also again it would play into the con I stated with, you know, builds becoming a bit more toxic because people would like expect you to have a certain build. But yeah, and that is going to do it for our pros list. Now I'm going to give you some of my personal opinions on A, whether or not this would actually happen, or B, what I think would be cool to see if this era were to actually exist. So with the classless era, the issue is of course balancing, but we already had this issue, and I already talked about it in the last video, so I'm not going to go into like Titans or things like that. But the thing is would this be likely to happen? Now, if you believed rumors 100%, technically somebody has said that this may be a thing in the next game. That's why I kind of put it as a what if, because there's no confirmation. But it did come from the person who reliably predicted prism, sorry, or prismatic as the full name is, like with almost 100% accuracy, and then came back and told us, oh hey, yeah, the next game has been in the works since, you know, Witch Queen, and it has like a classless system where it's more open and could potentially lead to more combinations. Now, my personal thoughts on the actual matter itself with the classless system is that, while it will be nice, it also takes away the fact that there are very much communities that are built around being in a class and being like, oh, hey, we're the Titans and representing a certain vanguard, which then the story starts getting a little bit more messy with, you know, the Hunter Vanguard and all those guys no longer really, I guess, being over somebody or being someone to look to, unless somebody specifically like points them out and is like, oh, you know, I look up to this one as a guardian. And that's where it kind of gets a little bit more muddy, and trying to pull this off simultaneously while being in a new game would also be a pain in the ass, just because if you have to do an entire reset, a lot of people are against entire resets, and there are very big issues when it comes to just trying to make it lore inclusive of why we're now just breaking the shell of our entire, beings as guardians, where we've had three classes the entire time. It'd be a hard thing to pull off, but if they were to pull it off, I think it'd be an interesting concept to explore. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. So I already did a poll on a certain place that I've been talking to people with, and it seems like people want me to do Destiny 3 first before I do like a new rarity. So the schedule for this will be, this one will go out, then what if Destiny 3 was real, and then finally it would be what if Bungie added a new rarity to Destiny, and talking about the possibilities with that. After that, I think I'm going to come up with a few more ideas and then do some more polls and see how people are feeling along the lines of those. But anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. If you guys did enjoy, hit the like button, comment down below. What do you think you would do in a classless era in Destiny? Let me know in the comments below. And guys, don't forget to subscribe, turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.